That's exactly what I went through after high school. Like I was cast out working back to back, job to job, working the shittiest shifts you could think of, bro. But there was no choice. Like there was something in the back of my head that just told me like I have to keep on going. Like I have to get out of this situation. I have to better my lifestyle. I don't know how. It might be working through this fucking valet job. It might be, training at Genesis. It might be working at fucking Target. But I knew like shit was gonna get better.
Especially if you put in the work day by day.
Absolutely.
Brick by brick.
It's like that topic we talked about when we was training that one day. About how it's kind of a hindrance to yourself and not only your community when you don't put yourself out there when you're gifted as individuals are. You know what I'm saying?
Say that one more time.
So what I was saying is like it can be a hindrance, and we talked about this months ago, that it can really be a hindrance to not only yourself but to your community. Like the topic that me and you were talking about the other day, Ronnie. The best way to grow yourself is to help others grow. And that's something that I don't know why that topic is like getting shoved down my throat everywhere I go in life right now. But
I can quite literally tell you why, but that's one of those things.
Because literally,
I don't mean to interrupt you just because you're speaking into your phone, you're talking about self-help shit, the phone's picking it up, it's suggesting it to you so you can stay on your phone longer. One other thing, we keep going.
No, so you just aired me out like that. But that's what I'm finding with career, with life, with the people in my community who help up. Exactly, and I'm sure you get the same feeling all the time. Like I just made myself better helping that nigga who had no clue how to throw a 1-2.
Right.
One of the best things that I love about what we do in here is it's exactly what you said. I'm able to take what you teach me. And what I have to put myself through,
right, there
and
you
what
go.
you put me through, and then take that and apply the mental principles and fucking breakdowns that I go through, and take it and apply it to whatever I do in life, whether it's work, whether it's some fucked up shit happening with family or whatever. And it was like actually I was talking to Ronny about it like literally on the way here. So one of the things that this has brought out of me is. You know me, I'm known for manifesting. So like,
real quick, go ahead, tell people what manifesting is.
So manifesting is just where you create a negative ass reaction that holds you back from the growth that's being stimulated when you're working towards something.
It's the ego excusing the ego messing up.
Yeah.
Especially as men, when we mess up, we want to almost be like, oh, this is why I messed up, just in case you need to know. So they'll manifest an excuse to substantiate their errors so they don't have to be accountable for their errors.
And it can be verbal, it can be physical, through body language, whatever the fuck it is. This thing catches on to everything. What I was saying,
like manifesting negative aspects in your life, or you guys
manifesting negative thoughts, let's say. Okay. Yeah.
Or just energy, like holding it in.
Exactly. Because again, he's like I said, it could be verbal, it could be body language, and especially when it's body language, he knows I'll throw a leg kick. And he'll be like, what's that for? It's like, you know why.
Yeah. So like what I was talking to you about on the car is like I can now go through or fail in some aspect of my life, and kind of like when I'm hitting the mitts, like pow, 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 and I mess it up, I can normally, if you know me, I'm very egotistical. I hate losing. I just hate it. And that's
like
one
most
thing.
Men, like
yeah,
most
and that's
men,
one
like
thing.
Most competitive men,
right? And that's one thing that I'm learning how to deal with. So like, if I fail, the old me used to be like, oh fuck, or get mad or grunt or throw my notepad that I use for work. But now I have the ability. If I'm doing a combo in here, pop, oh, I messed up. Go right back into it. Not think about it. You just, all right, I know I can do better. How do I apply that? It's the same thing like if you know me, I sell cars. Let's say I'm having a bad month and I know that I can do better.
Like
I know
you did recently?
Yeah.
Middle of the month?
Yeah, and I know that I can do better, but I'm sitting here, I'm getting mad, just brooding in my office like I'm Batman or some shit, and knowing that I can go out there and apply what I'm doing in here to, basically fight that manifestation. And
what happened in the middle of that month when you way behind on your sales and shit?
I had to get out of my own way. Like I had to realize like I've done it before now. I've done it multiple times. I literally I had to get myself out of that negative mental space or wasn't shit gonna go right. And I had to make peace with it.
And what ended up happening at the end of the month?
We had a record month, man. We had a record month, very blessed, but I had to stay focused. Like I couldn't stay down.
You couldn't, you decided not to dwell on the errors and ineptitudes of what was your perceived failures.
Word.
By proxy of not selling anything for that extended period of time, having to play catch up, doing so much on the non-dwelling that the catch up allows you to have a record-breaking month.
And I think that's why I also love being in here is, you know, it allows me to push myself out of my comfort zone, keep my mind sharp, and I feel more elevated than a lot of people in my dealership because I do inner work like this.
Exactly.
And when you do shit like this, you know, outside of work, which a lot of people probably in your respective jobs, they probably don't, you realize when you take a step back, you realize how much ahead you are of most people. Not to sound like egotistical or arrogant or anything like that.
Doesn't matter.
But your way of thinking is just so much different. Like you can adapt to more. Like some people when they have a bad time, like they're just gonna be down on themselves and they create that victim mentality every time. And then that's when it just gets worse. And that's when you really fuck yourself
and
up.
a victim mentality in 2021 is easier to be substantiated than it was 200 years ago. Because if you're a man 200 years ago and you want to tell the world, oh, my hamstring hurts, Mitch.
Fuck you.
Oh, I don't know if I can continue on this journey, guys. It's cold.
Airing me out today.
It's cold outside and my hamstring hurt.
Get the air horn.
He was telling me. He was telling me about that earlier. I'm like, bro, he's right, bro. Like, I was like, Mitch is right.
Did he tell you how he said his leg hurt and then I kicked that leg?
And I told him, I'm like, bro, in a real fight, nobody's gonna give you that mercy. Like, hey, his legs hurt. Let's let him catch his breath. That's not happening.
How about
bro.
this? How about not only not in a real fight? How about in life in general as a man?
They don't give a fuck.
Because life doesn't give a fuck.
They don't give a fuck if your leg's broken.
And 200 years ago, even 100 years ago, a man understood you ain't shit in this world unless you put something out and provide something worth of value.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, and for most men in all of human history, the greatest value and appreciation from a provision standpoint that you could provide is one of fatherhood. And the one thing men for the longest have found contentment in is the peace of mind of having a solid family household and having some heir to their throne, no matter how big or small that throne is.
Facts.
There's so much that's been flipped on its head from where we once were and how we're predisposed to be that nowadays in 2021, we're starting to finally crawl back to that natural predisposition. And that natural predisposition as men is one of understanding that you have to provide something of value in this world, which requires effort, it requires nonstop accountability, and requires the wherewithal to be consistent in both that effort and accountability.
Building yourself up.
Building yourself up and being consistent in that accountability of building.
Right.
And as men, again, we are only worth what we build in this world. And it makes sense because it's like, bro, women can make life. You know what I'm saying? They are automatically
good.
valuable.
They good already.
They already, bro.
I think it's because of this, right? Because I get that.
Right.
I feel like women are thinking they have to be that, or they want it because men are lacking.
Bro,
They're lacking, bro.
I was coming full circle.
It's some weak ass niggas out here, bro.
So
bro,
you have your quote. You have, and Drake, that's why I didn't want you to feel jaded when you were like, I'm out here working. I don't want to sound arrogant. Like, no, that's how men should be. The problem is men nowadays are so far behind where they are genetically predisposed and capable of. If you have technology, air conditioning, electricity, the ability to do all this shit, there's a more peace of mind, which gives us more comfort, which allows us to sit at home and not indulge in the savagery, right?
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that we live in such strong times that the men or the people are so weak. And so you're right, it forces the females to have to pick up the slack, which not necessarily incentivizes them to be independent, it nearly forces them to be independent, which is a whole nother convo. I feel like we can mend both sides by having that convo that, men, you got to pick your shit up and stop blaming all the women for being masculine. You have to build your kingdom, become masculine enough for that woman to take the step back and be that feminine.
She'll do it naturally.
Naturally, if you're a man.
If you're not, she's gonna walk all over you, bro. She can't respect you if she, you know what I mean? It's all about respect.
And this goes back full circle to the selfish versus selfless stuff you were talking about. How can I selflessly provide for another human that I love to death and will give everything for and even create a family with if I don't have the means to provide for myself?
Right.
So as a man, and especially when you realize when you read history, how men used to have to provide, most men would provide by going to war, getting paid by the government, and then creating a family when they were in their older age.
But think about that though. You said around 30s, right? Is when they started having that family.
Right.
Around 30, you basically you had time to experience
Life.
and become a man, like figure out ups and downs, how to master life, and then you can actually teach that to a kid. Everybody's having kids like fucking 14.
As kids. Kids are having kids.
Yeah, they don't know what the fuck. They don't know how am I gonna teach you how to be a man and I'm not a man yet.
And think of it.
And I didn't have a father to show me how to be a man, and now it's just a fucked up cycle.
So do you understand the implication? Like, so do y'all know about like the 1960s, Lyndon B. Johnson implementing a civil rights act, not the Civil Rights Act, he implemented what's known as the Great Society Act, which essentially destroyed specifically the black family nuclear household.
It's a lot of shit that destroyed.
So think of it like this. There was specific systemic racist stuff that was put into play to specifically ghettoize the black community to make them the low-income community, right? Lyndon B. Johnson, who is praised by Democrats, I'm not Republican or Democrat, I'm just saying like it's the irony of these people praising this dude who was racist to them.
Yeah, yeah.
But Lyndon B. Johnson enacted an act. He's praised by a lot of people because he did enact the Civil Rights Act, which you got to realize when people of power are putting stuff in power, they're doing it with the incentive of their position. So they're not doing it for the sake of, let's help black people. Lyndon B. Johnson and them are doing it because there's leverage for us.
Yeah.
And Lyndon B. Johnson specifically, the government specifically, with the Great Society Act and all these other acts in place, what it did, and think of it, we can logically deduce this. You have the family household, right?
Right.
How many adults are in that household?
Usually one.
No. Back in the day. How many adults are in a dynamic family household? Mother and father?
Two, yeah.
Two, literally. So you have two adults in the household.
Right.
Under the government, and now we know about paying taxes and stuff, the two people in the household, how many are paying taxes? One. The other is dependent, right? Man, there's 50% of people out there that ain't paying for shit, that aren't consumers, that aren't paying taxes.
Right.
What if, now bear with me guys, what if we could get those dependent adults, i.e. the women, and make them independent consumers so they pay taxes and are buying stuff also?
Genius. It's genius.
So they were able to double the consumer rate and their taxpayers by allowing what is perceived as women's liberation and women's freedom. And the irony behind it is you had these dudes in power saying, let's act like we're giving these women all these rights and stuff, so they'll act a certain way, more masculine, to where they'll be more consumer-based and they'll be more job-orientated, more career-orientated, less family-orientated, to where they'll be quite literally independent, don't need no man.
Right.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie.
It's all an
Those
agenda.
guys were geniuses, even though they're evil geniuses.
But because logically, it's like if you're gonna...
That's not how people are not thinking. Like,
No,
they're not
especially back then.
No.
You know how many people weren't literate and didn't know how to read back then?
easy.
So many, we take for granted how many people are literate nowadays. And that changes the fundamental way you view the world.
Mhm.
And for the majority of human history, not only were most people illiterate, most women were illiterate. So once the 40s hit, it's really the women's liberation and feminism and all that stuff was solidified and ratified in the 60s and 70s.
Right.
But think about it, in the 40s, when all the men were shipped out into World War II, in the 40s, who had to create the bullets and who had to do the manufacturing? A lot of the women.
They were learning how to,
So
yeah.
that generation of women raised what? The generation of the 60s
You gotta know
women
how to work.
who now were saying like, well, my mother worked and she built bullets and stuff. So, and now I can actually compete Title IX, all this stuff.
Yeah. There's women like, I'm not gonna lie, man. They're designed to just lead. They're designed for that.
Of course.
Like,
Cleopatra.
And to this day, there's some women that I've met in my life, and I'm like, hey, you're a better leader than any man I've ever met.
Guaranteed.
Niggas are paying for feet pictures, bro.
Bro.
They're top dollar of a video of her wiggling her toes.
Our little piggies, you know what I'm
Nigga,
saying?
I'm like, hey, bro.
This little piggy went to the market and bought some sirloin steaks, you know what I'm saying? Oh, was eating good.
I'm like, yeah, we're down bad right now as men. I don't know what's going on, bro.
And the sad part is,
But my bad, not to interrupt. But the sad part is, like, a lot of niggas, like, they can't identify that. They're dumbasses.
because they're not putting in that work and they think they deserve some shit they haven't worked for.
yeah, they're
That's where the
oh,
weakness comes in, though. The weakness of men nowadays is they have that instant gratification of thinking they earned something that they haven't put any work towards until you've gone out and fought in the battles, went down in the trenches, saw your homies die with you, came back, and then earned a family. Could you call yourself a man? And only a couple hundred years ago did that start fading out.
Yeah, because boys, they usually go through like a stage of like back then of like where they have to go through something or like a
initiation.
journey.
Some type of trial.
Initiation.
Exactly. Before they can even be considered a man, because that's a title that's like
Literally,
of
that's bestowed
respect.
and earned.
You have to earn it.
Literally.
You can't just. You're still a boy until you go through this.
So, what was the quote I was going to tell y'all? That associate. Remember, I was like, this quote associates with this quote, and this quote was the weak times create strong men create weak times XYZ.
Right.
The quote associated with that I F with so heavy is boys do what they want to do, men do what they have to do.
Mhm.
And when you look at life that way, when I was waking up at 4:30 every morning, when I was waking up technically at 3:45, being at work by 4:30 every morning, working till noon, and then from 3 to 8, working my other job, and in between there trying to finish my bachelor's degree, like you think if I had the victim mentality mindset, or if I was worried about the world, caring about if I needed sleep or not, I didn't give a. There was a certain level of just zero fucks given that had to be maintained, and that was my initiation test.
Right.
That was the world having to test me, and not enough men have that explicit in their lives.
That's exactly what I went through after high school. Like I was cast out working back to back, job to job, working the shittiest shifts you could think of, bro. But there was no choice. Like there was something in the back of my head that just told me like I have to keep on going. Like I have to get out of this situation. I have to better my lifestyle. Some fucking I don't know how. It might be working through this fucking valet job. It might be, training at Genesis. It might be working at fucking Target. But I knew like shit was gonna get better.
Especially if you put in the work day by day.
Absolutely.
Brick by
That was
brick.
the
I
main
want to
thing.
cut you off, bro. But that, right? Especially when you put in the work every day, that's when the gym comes in, bro. The gym changes your fucking life. As a man, it's like that first step to changing your life, in my opinion.
Because we don't have the fundamental fitness that we had back then of hunting and gathering.
And not only
so now we
that-
got to find that fitness in our base day-to-day life.
Yes. And also, it instills that I can make anything happen if I fucking work for it.
Because it's the physical
You can
manifestation of
see
work
it.
put
You
in.
can fucking see the progress. I
Look
made
at
this happen.
Sploosh, bro. Sploosh is a whole different human.
Yeah. I made this happen. I was at 0, and look at me now. Look at my confidence. Look how I look. It's just, now you're a different animal now.